Ladies and gentlemen, this is Steve Eyes. You're on the Eyes is Watching channel. Can you believe it? COVID started 6 years ago. I mean, it's crazy to think about, over 6 years ago now. And that exact same psychological manipulation playbook is being used all over again. Back then, it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Now it's basically 2 weeks to flatten Iran. That's right, another unwinnable war that's meant to drag on forever. Because as many of you know, a perpetual unwinnable war is the perfect tool for control. Everyone is expecting a major false flag soon. I mean, you can feel it in the air. Everybody is talking about it. You don't have to be Nostradamus to see where this is going. The demons running this clown world are basically telling you it's coming, so get prepared. Now they're saying Iranian sleeper cells are everywhere, just waiting to launch attacks at any given moment. Trump says he's been briefed on Iranian sleeper cells inside the United States. His exact words were, "We know where most of them are. We've got our eye on them, I think." Interesting statement, right? Now, I'm not some kind of legal expert, but if you actually knew where a network of terrorist sleeper cells were hiding, wouldn't you just arrest them? Or did he just accidentally admit something else? Did he just tell you they know exactly where these cells are because they're their own intelligence assets? CIA, Mossad, operatives sitting quietly on standby, waiting for the green light, waiting for the moment when a mass casualty event suddenly pops up out of nowhere, another 9/11. Right when public support for another Middle Eastern war starts to fade. They clearly need something big, okay? Something shocking and something so major that it suddenly convinces the American public that flattening Iran is a necessity, okay? Not just a military operation, but required for national security. We already have terror attacks taking place around the states right now. Okay, psyop after psyop, and you can guarantee what will follow here is extreme censorship online. I guarantee it. They'll start targeting all these websites, shows like this, anyone that critiques that one little nation in the Middle East. But we'll get into all the possible false flags a little later because it's just insane. Now, what does every war for the past 100 years have in common? Well, they're all basically for no reason whatsoever. I mean, we know they only benefit a small group of people, but there absolutely is no real world benefit to any of them. They exist purely as blood sacrifice for the demonic elite. From the same Baal-worshipping demons that brought you the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, Syria, Lebanon, Libya. Now they bring up the sequel we all knew was coming, the Iran War. Remember 22 years ago when the US started giving democracy to Iraq on behalf of Israel right here? Check out this footage right here of giving the good people of Iraq some democracy in the form of Tomahawk missiles and tanks, grenades, bullets. Saddam was hiding WMD somewhere, or we were told. And they were like, "We're sure of it, okay?" Oh, oops, never mind. No WMDs there. After thousands dead, millions displaced, killed. Actually, they must be in Iran. That's right. Oops, there was an N at the end of the country, not a Q. Okay, it was Iran, not Iraq. I mean, you can forgive them, right? I mean, the names sound so similar. Anyone could have made that honest mistake. From the same people that want you drinking out of paper straws to save the planet. That's right, we need to stop driving gas-powered cars because of climate change. Then they bomb the shit out of Iran, leaving it looking like a scene straight out of hell. Oil refineries going up in flames, entire sections of Tehran looking like the end of days here, dark clouds from strikes on oil infrastructure blocking out the sunrise, apocalyptic scenes everywhere, massive fireballs lighting up the sky, thick black smoke turning into black rain over the city. Even scientists say here they're calling it unprecedented when it comes to pollution, freeing the Iranian people by completely destroying the country's energy infrastructure. Okay, makes perfect sense. And here we go again with the same line getting pushed everywhere. I'm sure you guys seen this video.
This is a short-term disruption for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain be for long-term gain.
We're going to have some short-term pain with long-term gain.
Short-term pay for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain, yes, but we've got some long-term gain. Short-term spike for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain for American consumers.
We may have to deal with that in the short term.
Short-term and temporary.
Temporary short-term pain.
It's going to suck in the short term.
Some short-term pain.
Short-term pain. We have to focus on the short-term.
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 Short-term and long-term.
Short-term blip.
Hopefully this is a short-term pain.
Short-term is highly outweighed of the long-term benefit.
Some short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term sacrifice
for a long-term gain.
Short-term pain for long-term gain. You start hearing it from the talking heads on the fake news networks to politicians and even podcasters repeating it like they're all handed the exact same script before going on air. It's absolutely ridiculous. From the COVID insanity to now this. It's so coordinated, it's actually laughable. Every time things go downhill economically or geopolitically, the public is told they need to shut up and deal with the suffering. You know, like I said, behavioral psychologists are definitely advising these demons right here, okay? Remember Mark Carney, after his party implemented policies that sent the economy tanking, he then told Canadians to shut up, like, oh, well, you know, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices. You got to go through the mud to get to the promised land. But the thing is, we never get to a better place. We stay in the mud. Things only get worse every time. Now the Trump administration is telling you to deal with the suffering because the big payoff is right around the corner. Look what Trump himself just posted. This is ridiculous. Short-term oil prices, which will drop rapidly when the destruction of the Iran nuclear threat is over. It's a small price to pay for USA and world safety and peace. Only fools would think differently. President Donald J. Trump. So oil prices shoot up and the Strait of Hormuz is shut down, which will cause major food shortages soon. I'll get into that a little later. I mean, all over the Middle East, it's getting crazy yet again. And the official explanation basically is, relax everybody, it's just, you know, temporary pain. Where did we hear that exact BS before? Oh yeah, he said the same thing during the tariff situation. When prices started climbing and supply chains broke down, the justification was exactly the same. Short-term pain for long-term gain. Now suddenly the phrase shows up again, except this time the pain is a potential world war. That's right, nothing like a cute little world war before getting to the promised land. You know, just a cute little Armageddon before we get to a better place. I guess in this case they mean the afterlife. It's like the phrase is a universal excuse they pull out whenever things start getting worse. Think about the logic right here, okay? It's like someone walking up to you, cutting your arm off, and then saying, don't worry about it because in the future you'll get a cool futuristic bionic arm. Think about it. The only problem is no one signed up for the surgery in the first place. Nobody signed up for this experiment. People didn't vote for higher oil prices, more instability, and another Middle Eastern war. Yet every time the consequences hit the average person. And we're told to shut up and trust the plan because the rewards will come later, okay? Be patient. Later always seems to be the key word in these promises. This is the Truman Show, folks. The phrases and plans that cancel each other out are all by design. I'm sure you heard all the rhetoric that is in complete contradiction with each other, you know? They're meant to be chaotic and make no sense. So far, here are some statements Trump has made in the past few weeks. Tell them the war will last 4 days. Now tell them 5 weeks. Good. Now say until at least September. Great. Now say it's very complete. Now tell them it's also the beginning. It's just the beginning. It's just the end. It will last 4 days to 4 weeks to maybe till September. You know, who knows? Maybe forever. The flip-flopping is done on purpose, and the same rhetoric has been used during COVID to shut down people's frontal lobes, okay? That's why it's insane. On purpose. Trump comes out again saying he started the Iran war to keep us out of war with Iran. More doublespeak, okay? Just like Pete Hegseth saying, we didn't want regime change, but after killing everybody in the government, the regime sure did change. Do you not see the same thing playing out here? When things stop making sense, people's minds tend to overload and just give up. Okay, none of this makes any damn sense, but like I broke down last show, the same psychological conditioning as COVID. Check this out just recently. US officials are preparing for another Iran strike that will last at least just 2 more weeks. Unbelievable, folks. 2 weeks to flatten the curve, aka Iran. It's such a joke. The exact same rhetoric. Trump backtracked on every promise he's ever made when it comes to war. I'm starting to think not only are these people completely compromised, but the agenda itself must be satanic in nature. Okay, there must be actual demons in charge that want blood sacrifice every few years. It's the only explanation here. Who in their right mind will send more of their soldiers to die in another Middle Eastern war that doesn't serve their own interests in any way? 150 girls die in a school in Iran, and Trump saying, well, you know, that's probably Iran that did it. Remember that? Then his own commanders said, well, actually, it was a Tomahawk missile. And then when he was told that by a reporter, he says, well, you know, it could have been another nation that bought it from us and then used it on the school. You know, you never know. I mean, the excuses are outrageous. Trump's struggling to figure out whether he wants to bomb kids or rape kids. I mean, he's like, why not both? Think about the logic right here, people. First, it was WMDs, and of course, we need to take out the oppressive regime in Iran. They oppress their own citizens. Nothing like freeing the Iranian people by dropping a Tomahawk missile on an all-girls elementary school. Truly heartbreaking stuff, people. First, he says it wasn't the US, it was definitely Iran. And get this, it's now confirmed it was the US. The United States is responsible for the strike on the Iranian elementary school, an ongoing military investigation has found. Iranian officials say 175 people were killed, most of them being children. I mean, it's truly heartbreaking. In quotes right here, officers at U.S. Central Command created the target coordinates for the strike using outdated data provided by the Defense Intelligence Agency. The location of the Shajara Tayyeba Elementary School was formerly part of an adjacent Iranian base, the investigation found. That's unbelievable. I can't believe they gave us that excuse. Okay, oops, it used to be a Iranian military base. Who could have figured this one out? I mean, with all the intelligence they have, they say Israel and the US have the best intelligence in the world. They couldn't differentiate between an Iranian military base and an elementary school. I think something more satanic and evil is happening here. Is it an accident? It's happening all over the Middle East. We know hospitals, schools, and even refugee camps are purposely being targeted in Gaza. We have endless examples of this, but also in Lebanon as well. 83 children killed by Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon, 400 people overall in just 1 week. No one can tell me they aren't purposely and actively targeting children. This video here of a Jewish person harassing a bunch of pro-Palestinian protesters and then playing the victim is exactly what Israel does after people expose them for killing children, okay? The police in this video being the US government. This is exactly what it is right here. Look at this video. I mean, you can't come up with a better caricature of a little hat than this. This is just absolute comedy. I've never seen anything so funny. When I first saw this, I was convinced it was fake. I was convinced this video was AI or a parody of some sort. No one even touched the dude. Even the police were like, dude, what are you doing? Like, no one even touched you. We saw everything. This is Israel after you accuse them of killing children. They run to the US like, they hit me. Please protect me. Trump getting so many kids killed that Hillary Clinton is now MAGA. Okay, this is wild. That's right, on an interview with Raging Moderate, that's what they're called here, Hillary Clinton on Trump, Putin, Gaza, and America's future. You can look it up yourself. This is what she says about Trump after he went back on every promise, about not bombing Iran. When he does, suddenly all the demons are nodding in agreement. Is there any bigger red flag imaginable? Check this out.
I think all of that is a very good signal that there is beginning to be a better understanding, both by the president and the people around him, as well as by the leaders of our European allies, that there can be common ground amongst us. And the kind of dismissiveness that we saw in the first Trump administration has been replaced by a much more obvious working relationship to the good of European security, transatlantic security, and hopefully Ukrainian security. So I'm actually encouraged. I want to go back to something you...
This is insane. The moment he decides to go and bomb Iran on behalf of Israel, they're all on his side now. I mean, these people truly worship demonic deities, and they think strikes on elementary schools are like blood sacrifices to Baal and Moloch, okay? These demons have bloodlust. It's the only way to see this. This kind of reminds me of the movie Cabin in the Woods. It's actually one of my favorite horror movies ever. In that story, the whole world is secretly run by a system of ritual sacrifices. Every year, a group of people has to be killed in a very specific way to appease the ancient gods living beneath the earth. That's what the plot of the movie is. The people running the system don't even pretend it's good anymore. They openly admit the world survives only if innocent blood is spilled. So they build this massive underground operation where they manipulate events, pick the victims, and unleash specific monsters. And then they watch the whole thing unfold like a demonic ritual. The explanation they give is this: the gods they worship demand blood. If the sacrifice stops, humanity gets wiped out. And after watching what's happening around the world right now, you almost wonder if all of these people think the same way. Endless wars, endless dead civilians, endless dead children. And the justification is always some weird narrative that doesn't make any sense about security and freedom. It's like bombing an elementary school? Oops, who could have known it was an elementary school? It's a total joke, but the result always looks the same. Bodies in the rubble and politicians on TV pretending it's all necessary. Like, no, it's not. When will we realize that the whole system is evil and they're doing this for only sinister purposes? I'm not convinced it's even incompetence. They know exactly what they're doing. So Cabin in the Woods was about a world where the controllers convince themselves the slaughter is required to keep everything running. What if I told you it's the same way in the real world? 9/11 was a ritualistic sacrifice. Remember the video with George Bush sitting in the kids' classroom on September 11th, 2001, right before the World Trade Center attacks? What are the chances he's in a children's classroom? Not only is that interesting, but get this, the teacher points to words and makes the students read these words out. Does anyone remember the words that the students had to read out? Check this out. I couldn't believe this. Right before George Bush was told that planes hit the towers, this is what the children in this classroom were told to read out.
Get ready to read all these words on this page without making a mistake. Look at the letter at the end and remember the sound it makes. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready to read this word the fast way. Get ready. Kid. Yes, kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. What word? Kid. Yes, kid. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. Steel. What word? Steel. Yes, steel. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Plane. Yes, plane. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake.
Mind blowing.
Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Kit. Yes, kit. Get ready. Steel. Yes, steel. Get ready. Plane. Yes, plane. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Boys and girls, pick your reader up from under your seat.
Absolutely.
Open your book up to lesson 60 on page 150.
60. That number too, 6. Did you hear what words they had to read out right before? And now he's being told. See this? They tell him right there. The moment after those kids recited 5 words, kite, plane, must, hit, and steal. What are the chances? And then George Bush is told a plane hit the Twin Towers and they say, the jet fuel melted the steel beams and, the buildings came down. What are the chances of that? This could be the most mind-blowing coincidence of all time. The chances of this, you can look it up yourself. The chances are like 1 in 100 million or something, okay? Something ridiculous. Out of all the words in the English language, these are the few the kids are told to repeat. Fast forward 25 years and it's the same thing. Same ritualistic sacrifice. Different faces this time, whether liberal or conservative, they all seem to carry on with a worldwide satanic agenda that requires sacrifice. Innocent people are the ones being sacrificed mostly, and mostly children. And look at what's being pushed right now with Iran. Everyone knows exactly how this story ends. We know for a fact this will lead to a bloodbath. We know for a fact innocent children would die. We don't even have to speculate. We have endless examples of this already. Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, Gaza, Lebanon, the script never changes. Trillions spent to have the Taliban in Afghanistan replaced with the Taliban. Nothing changed except innocent blood being spilt every time. What makes it even more insane is that Trump himself said this for years. Both times he ran for president, he talked about how these Middle Eastern wars were disasters, trillions of dollars spent for nothing, endless lives lost for no reason at all, entire countries destroyed, and American soldiers coming home in coffins. I mean, Netanyahu's son here versus your son. See the difference? They do not care about you. They will send you out to die like cattle. The same man that has the COVID vaccine on display like the greatest invention ever. They want you dead and see you as cattle that need to be culled. But now suddenly, that entire message disappears. Trump does the classic Jewish 180. I mean, it's unbelievable. And now we're even hearing talk floating the idea around of drafting Americans to fight in this war. Think about that for a second. How insane is that? The only way they would ever be able to justify bringing back a draft in the United States is if something massive happened, okay? This is why I expect something major happening soon. Something so shocking it makes 9/11 look small. An event so big it instantly flips the entire country from actually questioning, another Middle Eastern pointless war to demanding retaliation. Okay, how big of an event does that need to be? Ask yourself. And then you start seeing headlines like this floating around out there. FBI warns California police departments that Iran may retaliate against the U.S. by launching offensive drones towards the west coast of the United States. Now, hold on a second. What? Iran launching drones to California? Tehran to California is like 7,600 miles or something. Iran does not have the capability to just casually send drones across the entire Pacific Ocean and hit the West Coast. So if something like that were to happen, the narrative would already be written before the investigation even started. And notice how oddly specific that warning is too. California, of all places. Almost like the idea is being planted ahead of time. Because remember the whole New Jersey drone story from a few years ago? At first, people were like, what the hell are these? Are these alien? Maybe it's aliens. At first, even the MSM and a lot of politicians were saying it could be aliens. You can't make this up. Or some unexplained phenomenon. Then suddenly, we start hearing something completely different. New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew came out saying Iran launched a mothership about a month earlier that contains these drones. And that the mothership was supposedly off the east coast of the United States launching them, okay? Check this out. The White House denied it 2 years ago. This is actually really funny. It's like watching the PSYOP be built. You're seeing the foundation be built, and it was built 2 years ago. It's like conditioning people's minds, putting the idea in their minds so they accept it when it happens.
A Republican from New Jersey was just on the air saying that Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones, and that mothership is off the coast of the east coast of the United States. Is there any truth to that?
There is not any truth to that. There is no Iranian ship off the coast of the United States, and there's no so-called mothership launching drones towards the United States.
That's actually kind of crazy that happened 2 years ago, and now they're floating the same idea. It kind of reminds me of like after 9/11, the White House came out saying, well, who could have predicted planes being used as missiles and crashed into buildings, yet they held exact war games of exactly that scenario multiple times, saying Al-Qaeda is planning to attack the World Trade Center too. I mean, I think we're seeing some kind of predictive programming again. This time an Iranian mothership off the West Coast, not the East Coast. See how they do it? Now, of course, this will take them by surprise. Well, we didn't know they could do this on the West Coast. Now, of course, this won't be true. I mean, the idea is so outrageous, but they're slowly conditioning minds with these ideas before pulling the trigger. It happens all the time. Think about the progression here. I mean, first you introduce mysterious drones flying over American cities and even float the idea they were aliens at first. Then you float the idea that Iran might have some kind of offshore drone carrier, okay? A mothership. Maybe the aliens are working with the Iranians, as we all predicted. Then the FBI starts warning about Iranian drone attacks on California. You can see how the pieces start lining up to build that narrative. You see it happening. Because if the deep state wanted to stage something enormous that would instantly unite Americans behind a war with Iran, what would it look like? Imagine a massive drone attack on a major West Coast city. Los Angeles, San Diego, or San Francisco. Hundreds of drones hitting infrastructure, just like they did in Dubai. Buildings, maybe even crowds of people. The next morning, the headlines write themselves. Iranian drones launched offshore. Iran attacked the United States. We must respond. That becomes your new Pearl Harbor moment. Actually, it sounds like a modern Pearl Harbor. History already showed how easily the public can be pushed into a war after a major shock event. I mean, after 9/11, people were lining up to join the military by the hundreds of thousands. The entire country flipped overnight into a war mentality. People in the streets were acting like they were in Starship Troopers, ready to go overseas and wipe out whoever the television told them was responsible. I say kill them all. Just like Rico said in Starship Troopers, they actually were saying that on the streets. Now imagine something even bigger than that. casualty event so shocking, the public demands retaliation immediately. That is the only type of scenario where the government could start talking about drafts again without massive resistance. And when you start seeing the media float stories like Iranian drone attacks on California while politicians talk about mysterious drone motherships sitting off the coast of the United States, you just have to think, like, are they laying the groundwork for the next script here? Think about that. After 20 years of watching these same wars accomplish nothing except death and chaos, Americans are being told to support another one? Lindsey Graham, every time someone mentions war, barely able to contain himself. And now he signs off with Sean Hannity saying, God bless Israel. We should move all our stuff to Israel? He says, to you anti-Semites, I'm not with you. I'm with Israel until my dying day. In another video saying, I'm going back to South Carolina and asking them to send their sons and daughters over to the Middle East. I mean, bro, at least be subtle with it. You want people dead. Like, this is the most obvious Baal-worshipping freak there is. There's something very demonic about these warmongering freaks, okay? Seriously, I don't think it's just blackmail. They seriously love the idea of innocent people getting killed. Who would say that on live television? Imagine what he says behind the scenes. It's sick. There's no other way to interpret this. It's not like they don't have examples of this not working. It's just like the rollout of the COVID vaccine. It's not incompetence. They have a demonic plan for depopulation and they perform yearly blood sacrifices. Is it a coincidence all this happens right after the pro-Iran government protesters started burning a statue of Baal? Yeah, that was the red line they seemed to cross. Look at this post right here. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a measure to automatically register men for the Selective Service, updating requirements for the first time in decades. And then we see this, White House press secretary on drafting Americans to die in Iran. Mothers are worried that we're going to have a draft, that they're going to see their sons and daughters get involved. President Trump does not remove options off the table, the press secretary says. But wait, didn't J.D. Vance say this? If you're worried about the world spinning out of control, if you're worried about a military draft, if you're worried about, God forbid, a world war, the best way to prevent it is to vote for Donald Trump. I mean, the absolute nerve of these demons. It's unbelievable. I saw a video the other day of the mannerisms of J.D. Vance and Trump, and they're basically identical. Are both of these cloned robots right here? Seriously, like they're designed the exact same way. Or maybe the real version of themselves died a while back. And here's another extremely weird layer to all of this. An article here mentioning that the timing of the US and Israeli strikes on Iran carried symbolic meaning connected to the Jewish holiday of Purim. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Purim. In the lead up to Purim, a message from the book of Deuteronomy is traditionally read about remembering the ancient enemy Amalek and erasing their memory. In that tradition, Amalek represents the archetypal enemy of Israel. So when you hear this rhetoric from Israeli leaders describing modern enemies in the region through this kind of biblical language, I mean, you can already start making the connections yourselves, okay? This is symbolism and blood sacrifice connected to modern geopolitical war. Nothing is by accident. Every date they give you, everything they do, the elementary schools bombed, they are all connected. Ancient narratives about destroying enemies connected to modern missiles and airstrikes, perfect timing. The bombs fall, but the outcome is always the same, and it traces back 100 years. Civilians trapped in the middle, neighborhoods getting flattened, and children caught in the crossfire. The symbolism in the speeches might change depending on who's telling the story, left and right. All of that is theater. The main goal here is innocent blood being spilled. Now, I have to play this because it's so interesting, the connection here of the satanic elite. And this man claims that from the child trafficking rings to even the alien agenda and all of the worldwide leaders participating in human sacrifice, all of that stuff is connected. Check this out right here. I don't know who this guy is or what show this is, but it is really interesting.
As a baseline, it's 100% powers of darkness. So I don't care if you want to call them demons. I don't care if you want to call them fallen angels. I don't care if you want to say it's influence campaign from the federal government or really Northrop Grumman. Their name is on everything. The private sector and what they're doing is on everything. But it's powers of darkness driven, period. So I don't care if you have a Jake Barber or a Greer or a Bledsoe or whoever, or Pasolka, and I don't care if you have, I mean, I have guys from my platoon work at Groom Lake, Area 51. They're private contractor. They work, like, I know people in all these different fields, and it's like, the bottom line is it's power is a darkness, period.
Yeah.
So they're channeling, they're astral projecting, they're having transcendental meditation, they're doing pharmacological interventions, they're using children. The blood of the innocent is the currency of their dark economy across all things. All UAP, NIH, UFO things all tie back into global trafficking campaigns and ritualistic child sacrifice. Every single thing that's ever got dug into comes back to that.
Yeah.
And again, because that's the currency and how they're breaking open to receive the advanced knowledge for the tech. This is empirical data. This is what's being collected through these different black projects and these SAPs and CAPs, and then being consolidated to present to, at the congressional level and the policymaker, their findings are, and which is like Jack Valet and all these guys say this. And I mean, there's so many people say this. Graham Hancock.
Yep.
It's all about channeling through altered states of consciousness to receive special, enlightened, higher frequency information. And every single, nobody is saying anything different. I don't care if they're God haters. I don't care if they're pseudo God lovers, like, you know, this Diana Pasolka with the you know, Vatican, whatever, theological researcher, or like, you know, Bledsoe intermixing Christ into, by the way, he was tripping balls.
Yeah.
When he had this experience. Like, those are things that are all in these reports that I'm seeing that nobody else is talking about. And so it doesn't matter what somebody's preference of interpretation is. The baseline is powers of darkness driven. Call it whatever you want to call it. It is 100% a satanic, Luciferian, high level influence campaign.
That is very interesting. And I do have to say, it does look like that when you're looking into these things. What's happening around the world, UFO, alien connections. I mean, Aleister Crowley saying he channeled a demon and the demon literally looked like one of the gray aliens. I mean, it all connects. And another video I got to play here. I mean, say what you want. You know, it's up to the people watching. You can come to your own conclusions yourselves, but there is something weird and satanic about all of this. And here's another video from a priest that says he's seen demons manifest as gray aliens. So all of you know the classic example of a gray alien, you know, in the movies, and people describe seeing these things. This exorcist has said he's seen demons manifest as these gray beings.
I do know other exorcists where they would, in session, they would actually, once the demon manifested, they would manifest in literally looking like an alien with the eyes and the small mouth and the whole bit turning gray. And they even call themselves gray. And they try and lie to the exorcist by saying, oh, well, we're not angels, good angels, and we're not bad angels. We're not demons. We're kind of in the middle. We're neither good nor bad. No, dude, you're just a demon, right? Because when you start talking to them, it's all that is a diversionary tactic, which they do in the session. So just as we're seeing this play out itself on a grander scale in the world with the whole alien thing, they'll try and do that in the session where they're just trying to distract you by something that they know that is not true, but they're hoping you'll believe it's true, because then from there they can manipulate you.
That is very interesting. Now, make of that what you will. I'm not saying, you know, what he's saying is true. I can't obviously confirm it, but it is interesting. It ties into the grand scheme here. There's something evil taking place. When you step back and you see the bigger picture, you start making the obvious connections here, okay? How could it be the current administration, the Trump administration, can go through with an Iran war? I mean, it's absolutely absurd unless there were darker forces pushing them in that direction. There's no way Trump just randomly woke up one day and decided to attack Iran out of nowhere. Geopolitics doesn't work like that. Moves this big come either after blackmail or demonic possession. Okay, that's it. It could be Netanyahu used Epstein to blackmail Trump into being the ultimate puppet for Bibi. You never know. Or the new Trump could be a clone. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past the DICs, okay? Because look at what Trump said about Lindsey Graham just a few years ago. I have to say, this does look like a different Trump, doesn't it? This does not look like the same Trump we see now.
2%. I saw him on television this morning, and I think he lost it. He's saying Donald Trump, he couldn't even talk. He was shaking. The hatred. They'd say, what do you think of Donald Trump? Oh, he went crazy. The guy is a nut job. I mean, and honestly, I don't want his endorsement. I don't want anything to do with him. And his thinking, he says, I know so much. He knows about the military. I could push him over with a little thimble. Boom. And I look at a guy like Lindsey Graham, then I hear his theory on the war. You'll be in there forever. You'll be in there, and you'll end up starting World War III with a guy like that, too. We don't want World War III over Syria. Okay, we don't want do we agree with that? We don't want World War. But I watched him on Fox today. I have never seen a guy I don't think I've ever seen a guy so totally out of control. They mentioned my name. He went literally crazy this morning. So he got out of the race, Bill. He was is this correct? He was at zero. And he still didn't want to get out of the race. You know, I often say these guys that are zero, why do they stay? Wouldn't you I think I'd crawl in a corner and I'd hide. I would just sort of put out a release. I've left the race. I wouldn't even give a news conference. I'd be too embarrassed. But anyway, I think he's a disgrace. I think Lindsey Graham is a disgrace.
And then he turned around and did everything Lindsey Graham wanted and Hillary Clinton. What does that tell you? Is that the real Trump? Or maybe the new one is a clone. Maybe that weird red rash on his neck was actually where they staple the flesh on top of the controlled robot. Now what could be the next false flag here? Because even every MSM outlet is warning it's about to happen. Okay, this is wild. It's like the opposite to what happened before 9/11. No one was expecting anything before 9/11, well, except the government that were behind it and Alex Jones. For some reason, he knew exactly what would happen. But this time, every MSM network is saying, okay, folks, here comes the next 9/11. Are you ready for it? It's truly insane. I've never seen anything like it. But what could it be? Like the demonic blood sacrifice version of The Price is Right. What could it be? And look at the headline that just came out right here. The 2026 Oscars in Los Angeles have been placed on heightened security after the FBI warned law enforcement in California about the possibility of a surprise attack linked to Iran. Oh, Iran might attack the Oscars. Oh no, not the celebrities, not them. I mean, protect Rosie O'Donnell and Rihanna and what? Why would Iran target them? We don't even like these people. Doesn't make any sense. Officials say Iran could retaliate for recent U.S. and Israeli military strikes by launching drone attacks towards the West Coast pretty soon. Authorities say they are watching for threats including sleeper cells, lone actors, and advanced technological or cyber-related attacks. I will cover that a little later. No one's really talking about that one. Security around the ceremony has been increased, with the FBI, LAPD, and other agencies coordinating closely as tensions in the Middle East continue escalating. Isn't that interesting that article says that? The Oscars could be the next target. But here's another angle that barely anyone is talking about, okay? What if the mainstream media has also been quietly drip feeding the public hints about the real false flag that could happen very soon, okay? Drones and Oscars, BS, okay? We know what could happen very soon because they've been warning you for a while now. These stories aren't getting much attention. They actually appear for like a day, maybe two, and then they completely disappear and no one's talking about them. No alternative media network is talking about them. They just slip through the cracks every single time and people forget. Take a look at some of these headlines right here. One reads, pro-Iran hackers claim cyber attack on U.S. companies. Another one says, intelligence agency tells Canada to brace for cyber attacks. So now suddenly we're hearing about Iranian hackers, cyber retaliation, and digital attacks on our infrastructure. And if you think about it, a cyber attack might actually make even more sense for the next big event. You wouldn't need missiles or drones crossing oceans or bombs blowing anything up. You wouldn't need any visible military buildup. One major cyber strike hitting financial systems, power grids, airports, or communications networks could throw the entire country into chaos overnight. It would be the perfect narrative, okay? It would be already written before anyone finished investigating it, okay? There would be no investigation needed at all. Iran attacked the United States. We must respond. And people would just accept it. No jet fuel, no steel beams this time. No building turned to dust. just your savings in your bank account wiped out because of Iran. And here's another story nobody is talking about. Check the headline. A massive U.S. healthcare technology company called Stryker, which supplies medical systems to hospitals all over the world, was just hit by a cyber attack. The company has around 56,000 employees and operates in more than 60 countries, meaning its technology is tied into healthcare networks across the planet. A hacking group linked to Iran claimed responsibility for the attack and said it was retaliation for the recent U.S. and Israeli strikes in Iran. The attack disrupted parts of Stryker's global network and knocked whole systems offline. And when something like that happens inside a healthcare system, think about the consequences and how fast that could spiral. Hospitals depend on digital systems for almost everything now, from patient records, medical equipment, scheduling, the whole supply chain, and even communication between departments. When those systems go down, it creates chaos. Surgeries get delayed, records completely disappear, and doctors and nurses suddenly lose access to critical information about patients. Cybersecurity researchers even say, an attack like this could spread through entire healthcare networks because these systems are all connected together. One breach can destroy entire hospitals, clinics, suppliers, and whole emergency services, Canada's Cyber Security Center is already warning infrastructure operators to stay on alert as the Iran conflict escalates. Their assessment says Iran will very likely use cyber operations as part of its response. And if attacks like this start targeting hospitals, energy systems, or financial networks, or even transportation systems at the same time, entire parts of the economy could stop within hours. Just look at how many mainstream media articles are popping up about cyber attacks right here, It's actually insane. Matter of fact, I'll look it up for you. Cyber attack, Iran. News. It is actually insane. I'm not even joking. There's probably thousands of articles every day, but no one's really talking about this one right here. Iran-linked hackers tied to cyber attack on U.S. company. Iran appears to have conducted a significant cyber attack against U.S. Blah, blah, blah. Endless stories right here. Look at this. All within 12 hours. Look at how many there are. Poland says many indications foiled cyber attack on nuclear center originated in Iran. Really now? Oh, so Poland is getting involved, huh? So it really seems like they're building the next false flag here. And we all remember what Klaus Schwab said, right? A comprehensive cyber attack will make COVID look like nothing. This will really shut down everything. Maybe total blackouts, power grid shut down. Think about how many times you've heard anyone in alternative news talk about this right here. And more predictive programming. Remember the movie Leave the World Behind? The movie, executively produced by the Obamas, it's basically an apocalyptic thriller about a family on a vacation whose trip turns into a nightmare after a massive cyber attack knocks out the power grid and communication networks across the country. So with phones, internet, and transportation systems completely failing, and then society begins to collapse all around them. Planes start crashing, self-driving cars pile up on highways, and strange unexplained events start happening as people try to figure out who launched the attack and what's actually going on. And one of those things in the movie is this strange, high-pitched, disorienting sound that people keep hearing. But wait a second, wasn't the US and Israel just talking about some new weapon they're calling the discombobulator? A device that supposedly emits an intense sound wave that leaves people completely disoriented? I mean, that's a pretty crazy coincidence.
Trauma passes right through the skull. These beams are absorbed by the water in the brain tissue and the fluid in the inner ear. This energy causes a minuscule rapid heating of the tissue, less than 1 degree Celsius. But that tiny sudden expansion generates a pressure wave inside the skull. The consequence? The target hears a sound, clicks, buzzing, or a roar that originates inside their own head, bypassing the eardrums entirely. If the frequency is tuned to the resonance of the inner ear, it violently disrupts the body's balance, causing immediate vertigo. At higher power levels, that rapid tissue expansion can rupture capillaries, leading to the reported nosebleeds and internal trauma.
Crazy, right? And get this. This one is actually wild. So remember how they've been conditioning the public to believe an Iranian drone attack on the United States could happen any day now? Well, in the movie Leave the World Behind, there is literally a scene where drones start flying overhead, dropping thousands of red leaflets all over the place. The leaflets are written in Arabic and they're warning about destruction and death to America. One of the characters in the movie suggests Iran is behind it, and it's part of some coordinated attack designed to destabilize the country. What are the chances of that? And the crazy part is the movie never actually confirms who's responsible. It leaves it completely up for debate. It could be Iran. It could be some other foreign actor, or it could even be a false flag operation meant to throw the country into chaos. The whole idea in the film is that this attack is part of a larger strategy to isolate the United States, shut down communication networks, and create synchronized panic across the country until the system starts collapsing from the inside. Isn't that crazy? So they're already talking, in real life, they're talking about Iranian drones about to attack the West Coast, the United States bragging about discombobulator energy weapons that create loud ringing in the head to the point where you collapse, and in the movie Leave the World Behind, Iranian drones dropping red pamphlets talking about death to America. This is getting really weird, people. Look, when the same slogans get repeated across all MSM every time another crisis unfolds, we know a pre-planned script is playing out, okay? Short-term pain for long-term gain. And they're talking about oil now, okay? That's the line they keep feeding the public. But the reality right now is oil prices exploding and the global energy system is getting shaken up. This isn't some tiny market fluctuation either, okay? Crude oil has been already blasted past $100 a barrel, and earlier this week briefly spiked close to 120. It's completely volatile, the whole oil market right now, and it's on purpose. This war is dragging into its second or third week, I believe. And remember where all of this is happening, the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important choke points in the whole world, where roughly 20% of the world's oil supply moves through every single day. And right now, that waterway is getting backed up with oil tankers, cargo ships getting blown up to pieces right now. We see endless videos of this. Iran has been launching missiles and drone attacks across that region, targeting military assets and infrastructure. The U.S. as well. Israel too, while the United States and Israel continue hammering Iranian positions and weapon systems. At the same time, oil facilities across the Gulf are getting hit or threatened. Saudi Arabia had to intercept attacks aimed at its massive Sheba oil field. Bahrain's national oil company declared force majeure after strikes damaged refinery operations. And several Gulf states like Iraq, Kuwait, and the UAE have already had to cut production because storage facilities are filling up faster than shipments can move through these disrupted routes, okay? And the situation keeps getting more volatile because Iran's Revolutionary Guard is now openly warning that not a single liter of oil will be allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz while this conflict continues. And Trump is threatening them back, so it looks like a lot more chaos is incoming. They're saying ships linked to the US, Israel, or their allies could be targeted as legitimate targets. And many vessels have already been struck in the waterway, and maritime security firms are warning that shipping traffic through the area is becoming extremely risky. That's why the International Energy Agency, along with several countries, has started preparing emergency reserves just to try and stabilize the market, with roughly 400 million barrels being lined up for release as governments scramble to keep prices from spiraling completely out of control. But even with those reserves being tapped, analysts are warning this disruption could send prices much higher if the strait stays effectively closed. Iran itself is warning oil could shoot up to $200 a barrel if the standoff continues, and the experts are saying if it gets to that price, basically nothing can operate at $200 a barrel. Okay, you can look this up yourselves. It is total insanity. And energy experts are already saying the global shipping system could face a serious crisis lasting weeks or even months if traffic through Hormuz doesn't return to normal. Meanwhile, governments around the world are trying to contain the economic fallout. France is talking about tapping emergency stockpiles. South Korea is floating price controls on oil imports. And China is warning that stability of the global energy supply is now everyone's responsibility. So analysts are even saying it wouldn't be shocking to see oil jump to $150 a barrel in the coming weeks if things keep escalating. And the longer this war drags on, the more pressure builds because none of the major players look like they're backing down anytime soon. The US and Israel say the strikes will continue as long as necessary to dismantle Iran's nuclear and missile programs. Iran is retaliating across the region while still holding back parts of its missile arsenal. And more countries are slowly getting pulled into the orbit of the conflict through military deployments and defensive operations. Short-term pain for long-term gain, they say. What they mean is a serious supply chain issue is going to come about here, driving energy prices through the roof. And get this, it's not just oil moving through. Roughly a third of the world's fertilizer also passes through the Strait of Hormuz. That means the same conflict driving up these oil prices could also hit food production worldwide. Because if those fertilizer shipments get disrupted long enough, farmers everywhere start paying more to grow crops, and a few months later, the cost will show up at the grocery stores. So this could really get out of hand soon. And Trump has the nerve to say the Iran war is over, okay? It's done, they won. Yet Hezbollah fired over 100 rockets into Israel right after he said this too. And also, as we all knew, Greater Israel Project in full effect, people. And yes, the Greater Israel Project is worldwide because get this, Satan Yahoo says that the Iran war is not only turning Israel into a regional superpower, but into a global superpower. As we all knew, one world government with Israel at the head. Okay, because just in time, Palantir teams up with NVIDIA to create a sovereign AI for governments, basically a giant AI system meant to run all intelligence networks. And NVIDIA is calling Israel their second home now. So as the world collapses, missiles and bombs being blown up all in the Middle East, an all-seeing eye is being built behind the system. Now, carrying on here, all these mass shootings as of late, specifically school shootings, okay? False flags, psyops, it's been nonstop, people. Whether you argue they actually happened the way we're told or whether parts of the story are being manipulated, that doesn't matter anymore. The outcome is always the same. The reaction is always the same. And the solution they roll out is always the same. Wait till you hear this. Now we know for sure why these problems keep appearing in a loop, okay? I've been warning about this for years on this show. The end game is a totalitarian surveillance state where everyone is watched and tracked 24/7. Remember after the Charlie Kirk event, they floated this same idea of drones hovering over everyone constantly to prevent the next political assassination? Well, get this. Now they're openly showing the next phase of the totalitarian matrix grid, okay? A system called Campus Guardian Angel. That sounds cute, right? Sounds pretty wholesome, like something out of a Hallmark movie. In reality, it's tactical drones flying over school campuses 24/7, waiting to launch the second an alarm goes off. These things fly through hallways at around 50 miles an hour. They're equipped with pepper ball rounds, and they can literally ram into people and explode too, like the Ukrainian war footage. So this is what they say they can do. So the second a shooting starts, the drones deploy instantly and hunt the suspect through the building. They say these drones aren't even controlled locally. They're flown remotely by operators sitting in Austin, Texas. Former military drone pilots controlling aircraft inside schools hundreds or thousands of miles away. Just imagine the future they're building here, okay? Schools filled with sensors, cameras, and automated detection systems, and flying drones that shoot bullets. Okay, it's always the same thing. Most shootings happen in the first 120 seconds, they say. So the argument becomes we need instant response everywhere. Once again, a Hegelian dialectic just to get this new system up and running. We need machines ready to launch immediately. We need cameras in every hallway, sensors everywhere, and drones flying through classrooms, ready to explode on command, powered by Palantir and NVIDIA. Controlled by somebody in Israel, And there's going to be an emotional trigger they attach to it because they even bring in grieving parents to push this new system. Parkland, Sandy Hook, tragedy after tragedy used as the emotional anchor, because once you attach children to the narrative, the public will accept it. It's just going to be framed as safety and a logical next step here. That's how this infrastructure gets built. I do believe in a few years, they're going to have these same drones flying 24/7, watching everyone. In China, they're doing it over the chikungunya virus. That's what they're doing it for. But over here, they're going to do it for the mass shootings, for the Iranian sleeper cells, next COVID that pops up. 3 school districts already have these drone systems installed. The goal is to expand them nationwide, they say, which means thousands of schools become miniature surveillance zones, drone hangars on campus, remote operators monitoring feeds 24/7. And they're talking about Iranian drones. We should be worried about the Iranian drones? Really? While they're doing this? Automated security responses launching machines inside buildings. And of course, people are going to be like, what's the problem? It can stop the next school shooter. But look at the bigger picture here. I mean, cameras everywhere, facial recognition, AI threat detection, biometric tracking, and predictive policing systems. And now they want to add remote control drones into that. Think about where this could head, people. This is truly some dystopian stuff. Oh, but it's all about protecting people. You need the same Ukrainian drones that blow people up here too. Okay? It's all about safety. But now we know why these mass casualty events keep dominating headlines year after year. It's actually not for gun control. Can you believe that? This is what they want to push soon. The events create the fear, and the fear creates the demand. The demand justifies this totalitarian technology. I mean, problem, reaction, solution every time. So get this. I got to end with this because it's just absolutely outrageous. We could throw it into the well, ain't that some shit segment. You better believe it. We're supposed to believe something so outrageous that I don't even know how people could believe something like this, okay? For the past few years, people have been noticing an explosion in cancer, turbo cancers, okay? Doctors are even mentioning that aggressive cases are showing up out of nowhere. Younger people getting diagnosed, tumors moving faster than they normally do. Some oncologists even started throwing around the term turbo cancers. Not something the media wants to talk about too much, of course, but the stories have been everywhere. And the timing of all this lines up right after the biggest injection campaign in human history. Billions of mRNA shots pushed into people across entire nations in record time, and then suddenly explosions in turbo cancers. You're not going to believe this. They want us to believe those same COVID shots might actually help the body detect cancer. This is peak retardation, okay? Researchers now saying the vaccine stimulates T cells and strengthens tumor surveillance. That's right, the same shots that cause turbo cancers. Now they're saying the immune system becomes better at spotting abnormal cells if you get the COVID vaccine. Imagine the amount of brain damage you need to believe this one, The same vax that was introduced that immediately caused turbo cancers to spike, apparently those same shots might actually help fight cancer now. Okay, if you want to cure your turbo cancer, you need another COVID vaccine. This is what they're pushing. Funny how that works. Meanwhile, cancer numbers keep shooting up, skyrocketing, especially in younger age groups. Even major cancer organizations have admitted that part. Doctors and hospitals are reporting this in record numbers now. Everyone sees it. Patients definitely do. The fact they have the solution to the turbo cancers and it's more COVID mRNA shots, they say, don't worry, these injections are just immune training, okay? It trains your body to find the cancer cells. It's actually helping detect cancer cells. How many boosters do you need to believe that BS? It's constant doublespeak in a way, from the Iran war to this BS. Right after the largest mass rollout of this poison mRNA technology, turbo cancers spike. What could it be? But I gotta move on to another story here, which could be a psyop. I'm not sure. But we got to get into this because right after that story about mRNA possibly helping fight cancer, another story pops up that seems really strange. A recently resurfaced CIA document from the early Cold War is suddenly making the rounds online and people are getting furious about it. They're like, how could you not tell us this before? But something seems really weird about all this. The document was written in February 1951, and it was basically a CIA translation and summary of a Soviet scientific paper published in Leningrad the year before. Back then, U.S. intelligence was closely watching Soviet research, especially anything related to biology or medicine. The research itself looked at similarities between parasitic worms and cancer tumors. According to the papers, both seemed to survive under very similar metabolic conditions. The report even noted that the parasites showed something scientists called pronounced anaerobic metabolism, meaning they could function in low oxygen environments, which is something cancer tumors are also known to do. Both were found to build up large amounts of glycogen, which is basically stored energy inside the cells. The researchers thought that overlap was interesting because both parasites and tumors seem to rely on similar energy systems to keep growing. The Soviet scientists also ran experiments with different chemical compounds to see how both parasites and tumors reacted. One example mentioned was a drug called Miracle D. It was originally used to treat a parasitic disease called bilharzia, but in their experiments, it also showed activity against malignant tumor cells. Another compound interfered with nucleic acid production, which is one of the processes cancer cells rely on in order to keep dividing rapidly. In mouse experiments, they even saw tumor tissue reacting differently to certain chemicals compared to normal tissue, which made researchers think there might actually be some kind of biochemical overlap between parasites and tumors. I mean, we have heard this before. I watched multiple videos on this, and now the CIA translated this research internally because during the Cold War, they were monitoring Soviet science very closely. Isn't that interesting? Cancer cells operating very similarly to parasitic organisms, and the treatments designed to attack parasites might also damage cancer cells. What makes the whole thing weird is the timeline, because a lot of people are pushing this right now, but the document was actually declassified years ago, okay? And it was placed in the CIA's public reading room around 2011. So technically, it's actually been out for over a decade, but nobody was talking about this until now. You know, suddenly it's 2026, and it's blowing up online like it was just discovered yesterday. But don't get it twisted, folks, because the timing lets you know there's something psyopy about it, okay? This narrative that's floating around the same time, the idea that mRNA injections could also cure cancer, now you got suddenly like two totally different cancer cures coming in at the same time. One for the pro-vaxxers and another one for the anti-vaxxers. You know, if you're an anti-vaxxer, go out there and take as much ivermectin and antiparasitics as you can. You know, it's like, that's what it seems like to me. Like there's alarms going off in my head. Like, what are they trying to say here? And if you're a pro-vaxxer, oh, just go get another booster. It'll cure your turbo cancer. Are they lying? Is this another psyop at play? Because why is everyone talking about this now? One saying that COVID mRNA shots help the body fight cancer. You know, it helps the body detect cancer faster. Like, you'd have to be retarded to believe that. The other narrative is Cold War era documents are now showing that scientists are saying antiparasitics can help cure cancer tumors. And they were doing this more than 70 years ago. I don't know, people. If intelligence agencies were reviewing this research like back in 1950s, and if they really knew what the truth was and what could really cure cancer, do you think they would tell you? They would go to the ends of the earth to stop you from knowing that truth, okay? I don't think they would put out those documents that easily, okay? Cancer is a $1 trillion industry. It really makes you wonder what real cancer cures are sitting behind the scenes. Barbara O'Neill does have an interesting post here. She says, root causes of cancer. Number 1, parasites. Number 2, mold and fungus. 3, trauma. 4, radiation, EMFs. 5, toxic diet, ultra-processed food. That's huge. 6, overexposure to toxic inhalants. 7, emotional stress. I would put stress number 1 because stress can really eat you alive. It will mess with your sleep, which causes cortisol to spike, which causes more stress, which leads to even more lack of sleep. It is a terrible cycle that actually ends up really killing someone quickly. And this is why we hear about stories of people dying through heartbreak. Someone loses someone they love and they die shortly after. It's due to stress and lack of sleep, and it should be probably number 1. Okay, number 8 is contaminated drinking water. Number 9, smoking. Number 10, obesity, overweight. 11, sugar. 12, cleaning products, carcinogens. 13, heavy metals. 14, undetected allergies. 15, infections, bacterial, viral. I'm going to end this with this video right here. Cancer, a parasitical infection, video proof. Let's see what it says.
The microparasites described by Dr. Weber that you can see here can be found in the tissue of all cancer patients.
Wow.
Mainstream cancer research denies their existence. However, they are called differently. What Dr. Weber calls, for example, a gamete, the mainstream cancer researchers call cell-intrinsic organelles. And what Dr. Weber calls the youth form, the mainstream calls apoptotic vesicles. active movement. We can see here moving corpuscles inside of an immune cell. The mainstream cancer research believes those are the organelles of the cell and they move because this is part of the life process of the cell itself. Let's accept this theory for a moment. That would mean that if the cell dies, the organelles have to die as well. But exactly that does not happen.
They know that cancer is parasites, but they're not letting anyone know because they don't want to lose their funding, Dr. Lee Merritt says. Who's to say? I'm not sure. But if that were the case, then there definitely is something behind chlorine dioxide and curing a lot of these illnesses. Now, definitely need a deeper dive on chlorine dioxide and what it does, parasites and cancer. Maybe I'll do that in the next show, but interesting to say the least. And that's where I'm going to leave it, folks. If you like what I do here, links are in the description for ways to support. It is greatly appreciated if you hit those links.